And it looks like our numbers are evening out here. We know some people will probably join along the way. So, Katie, what do you think? We officially kick this off?
I think let's kick it off. Everybody's got a lot to do. Let's dive in, Diana.
Absolutely. Wonderful. All right, we got one more Olympic response. Barry says swimming.
I wish I was a good swimmer. I'm not.
All right. So, folks, you've come to this webinar today because you saw the marketing, which was focused on mindsets. In fact, the 5 core client mindsets. So, this is very specific. And I've invited Katie Braden here with me today, who's the chief evangelist at C&J Innovations, because they've developed what I feel to be quite a revolutionary assessment, a diagnostic, if you will, for clients, for humans that really helps bridge the gap between an advisor and what they're offering and consumers, clients, prospects, and what they really need, what they're really demanding, but also maybe what they don't know that they need. And so it's a very much of a discovery tool, but I'm not going to do it justice because I'm not the expert here. Katie is. So I'm going to let Katie talk about it today. But first, Katie, could you share just a little bit with our group about who you are? You do so many things in this space. You're a rock star. Could you share a little bit about your background?
Yeah, so those of you that might know me maybe more from the video marketing side, have done that for a number of years. And through that, Colleen Bowler, the C in C&J Innovation, saw my content, was like, I know you work with advisors, but is there any way you would work with us? And I was like, I don't know. Let's see what you're doing. And similar to you, Diana, like when I took the assessment and I saw what they were doing, I was like, oh my gosh, I wish I had this when I was practicing. So, quick background, I actually started one of the first completely virtual monthly subscription financial planning businesses back in
Wow.
2013. And I was doing all modular planning. I never personally did a full financial plan. I believed that you had to kind of really take things slowly, right? Actually, like complete action steps before moving on to the next thing and really focusing on like the most pressing thing in the client's life. And I was like, this assessment makes that so easy, builds those really, really sticky ongoing relationships, is brilliant for that lead gen prospecting process, and then just kind of like adds value continuously in a way that creates those really sticky relationships that we always joke like 1-800 no advice never can, right? As the profession is evolving and clients and prospects really need a lot more than just numbers and just like the technical side, they need everything we're going to be talking about today.
This is exactly why you're here, right? Like you've been in it, you've helped clients before, and you've seen like what is missing here in order for me to do my job well, but also for my clients to feel like they're getting 100% and beyond of what they need. Thank you for that quick introduction. And it's just quick, right? You do so many other things you didn't even get to touch on. But I think what I'd like to do from here is I'd like to hear a little bit from the audience. Maybe you're joining us and you're a financial advisor. Maybe you're supporting a group of financial advisors. You're just learning ways or looking for ways to, again, help sort of bridge that gap and strengthen those relationships in your firm. So, the first thing that we want to do here is we want to ask a question. In fact, I'm going to launch an official poll just to make it easy for you guys. And that question is, what percentage of your client and prospect conversations go beyond financial topics? Like if you really had to break it down, think about your last 10 conversations. Is it that you guys are mostly sticking to financial topics? Is it that you're talking more about life and feelings and emotions and family? You can be completely honest here. This is an anonymous poll.
Yeah, and Dan, like as people are doing this, I won't be surprised if a lot of them are lower because that's one of the conversations we're always having with advisors is like, hey, I understand, I need to do this, I want to do this, but how, right? Especially if you've been around for a long time and you've always done things a certain way, and you're like, you want to evolve, but change is hard. And that's one of the things that, we'll see we love about this. And even if, you all don't end up working with us, just again, we hope you still have a lot of actionable takeaways about how can you evolve the conversation. So yeah, there is no right or wrong answer here. Like if everybody was doing everything perfectly, then I don't think anybody would be here today.
Yeah. And I want to say something here too, because this is a trend that I've noticed. If you're an advisor and you're joining us in the summertime right now, you are very dedicated. You're dedicated to growing your business, you're dedicated to evolving the business. So I'm actually not surprised to see the results I'm seeing. I'm going to share them back now with the audience. And it looks like a decent portion of the group here is kind of between a little less than half and about half of their conversations. And we want that to be even more, right, Katie?
Yeah, I mean, that's where the value is, right? Is and really focusing on all the things you can control, which is going to be a big theme of sort of what we'll talk about.
Yeah, I love that. Okay, thanks everyone. By the way, if you have anything else to elaborate on this point, feel free to drop it in the chat. Again, we have the chat open. We have the Q&A box open as well. Okay, we're going to move along here and let's talk about what we're actually going to talk about. So I love to do this. I love to sort of set the stage for the rest of the webinar. We probably will go to the top of the hour. We're going to try to stop at least 20 minutes before to make sure that we do an open live Q&A. So if you have questions throughout the session, feel free to write them down, put them in the chat, put them in the Q&A box. Probably easiest if you do the Q&A box for us to manage it later, but we will have a live Q&A segment. So we're going to cover a few things. First, the 5 core client mindsets and how to easily bucket your clients. Now, this is just 5. There's actually more. There's actually 8. But we're going to focus on that core 5 and then show you where things evolve depending on what stage of life your clients or your prospects are in. We're going to give you a tour of the passport package. So Katie's going to share her screen and share with you this patent pending assessment. I've taken it. She's taken it. It's something that every advisor needs to see in action. And then how to really introduce the passport package. We're going to talk about this. If you use lead generation tools like Wealthtender, for example, what's a meaningful way to take a next step with these prospects? And really, if you know much about marketing, right? Somebody who raises their hand to look around your store, walks in the store, really is a lead. But the minute that they pick up an item and they start looking and you get to have that conversation with them, that is when they become more of a viable prospect. And so that's what this tool is so strong at, is converting that lead into a viable prospect and then a prospect into a client. And then, of course, as I mentioned, we'll have the live Q&A as well. Okay. So we have a comment in the chat box here from Andy. When clients are your friends or become friends, you cannot avoid talking about non-financial topics.
And I assume, Andy, you wouldn't want to not talk about non-financial topics, right? That's where all the best stuff happens.
Absolutely. The juicy stuff. Okay. All right. So that's our agenda, folks. Again, feel free to drop any questions in the chat. So let's start at the core of this content, right? We've planned this content for at least over a month now for you guys, really wanting to make sure that we hit on everything that's important. So we're going to go right into starting with the 5 core client mindsets. Now, Katie, this is where you shine. This is where C&J Innovations is truly innovating the space. So I'd love for you to take it away here. Let's talk about these mindsets. What do they mean? Who are they for?
Yeah, absolutely. And I just want to touch on kind of the concept of mindsets, right? And just having everybody realize, they kind of say there are 2 mindsets. You can have like a fixed mindset where it's like, this is the only career I'm meant to have, and this is the amount of money I'm going to have, I'm never going to have more, or a growth mindset. And based on the advisors that are here today, I'm guessing you all have a growth mindset, right? Of like, you want to collaborate, you want to help more people, you want to add more value, right? So when we think about just how mindsets work, it's taking all of these different topics. And this is also where advisors can really shine with clients, is helping to shift their mindsets, right? If you have clients that are like kind of stuck in things because maybe they came from a background or are in a situation where people haven't really encouraged that growth mindset. So I just want to kind of plant that seed as we go through all of these. So the first one is really around that readiness mindset, right? So having that emergency fund, even if you work with really high income, high net worth clients, we've all been there. I worked with clients making $600,000 a year that were living paycheck to paycheck with a ton of debt, right? So kind of even shifting advisor mindsets of like emergency funds for everyone are important. The caring mindset, Diana, you and I have actually talked about this a bit in our own personal lives, right? That is really around, you as an individual, like showing how much you care about your family, that once something happens to you, whether you're, it's death or incapacitated, that your family can easily access those documents, those passwords, right? It's just so, so heartbreaking if something happens and then the family's dealing with that emotional trauma and can't find all that stuff, right? So again, really getting people to work through that foundation. kind of big core of financial planning, but having that whole foundation. Do you have, life insurance, disability, long-term care, all those really foundational pieces to make sure that you're protected so you can focus on the other areas. Wellness, one of my favorites. Diana, you and I chat about this all the time as well, that wellness mindset. And it can really encapsulate so many things. And I have to say, like some advisors are like, I don't want to, talk to clients about, are they overweight or do they exercise enough? And it's like, look, the thing that is also great about this is like it's meeting people where they're at and people are going to interpret this differently, right? So for some people, they're really going to be focused on their mental wellness. Others are their physical wellness. Even having advisors encouraging clients to say, hey, are you getting your regular checkups? Are you being proactive
Mhm.
with your health and catching things early so that you can take care of it before, it's too late and it's irreversible? And then one of the biggest things, as we're especially talking about lead gen, Diana, is this partnership mindset. And so we're going to look at a couple of examples, but this is saying, like, do you want to work in partnership with an advisor? Right? We know there are a lot of DIY clients out there. And so if somebody kind of takes this and they're like, hey, like, I don't work with an advisor and I don't want to work with an advisor, well then there's not really anywhere to go, right? That's not
Exactly.
going to be an ideal client for you, right? Or if it's like, hey, I work with an advisor and I don't feel really comfortable with them, but I really want to work in strong partnership with an advisor, amazing. Like such a huge opportunity for you to go in and understand what didn't work and then set the stage and build a whole new relationship there.
So essentially, Katie, like these mindsets are kind of shining a light on like where does your client or potential client fall, right? Within these thought patterns or things that they're really wanting to focus on, or even before they tell you, you already know like this is an area where we're going to hone in, which I really love. And that's when I took the assessment, I got to experience it for myself.
Yeah.
And I don't know what that noise is. I don't know if you know what that noise is, but I keep hearing somebody say, yeah, I don't know.
I do too.
Okay,
I'm
I checked and we don't have anyone on the webinar who's not muted. So we have some random robot here, but that's okay.
and I'm
Um,
in an empty house, so
yeah. Okay. So the wellness mindset, I just want to tell a really quick story because I think that you made such a good point and one that might, for some advisors feel, no, that's not my duty. But a friend of a friend, her name is Mrs. Lesta. She was fantastic. She was a go-getter career woman who worked at Oracle for most of her career. Unfortunately, she passed away a couple of weeks ago, and she was about, I think, maybe 61. And she worked like a workhorse her entire career, didn't get a whole lot of time with the kids. The husband raised the kids. And, she just retired a year ago and bought like a beach house and, was ready to live in her retirement. Like for the first time ever, she's not focused on work. She's focused on just living and enjoying life and travel. And she had never really gotten any main checkups. Like she didn't really get the labs done. She didn't get her heart checked. Fortunately, she had a heart attack and she passed away in her own house. And I couldn't help but think like, who was on her team? Like beyond family, because sometimes family doesn't even want to go there. But like somebody needs to be on that team. And when you think about health and wealth, like they're so interconnected because now all of that money she worked so hard to earn, invest, multiply over the course of her lifetime to then go into retirement and spend it the way she really wanted to. Well, now it's kind of been there for nothing. Like obviously it's past her family, but there really does need to be somebody in your corner when it comes to that wellness mindset to say like, are you doing the things? Are you getting the checkup? So I love that you use that example. Again, I think there could be some advisors who feel it's really not their role, but these types of mindsets and like discoveries, if you will, through the assessment will help advisors understand like, where do I need to shine a light? Where can we focus? And also beyond just what one thing to focus on, it's like zooming out. These are all things that you should focus on or have a conversation about at some point or another.
Yeah, and I just have to share like that reminds me of my favorite quote, which I've shared so many times, but AJ Materi's quote, so many people spend their health to gain wealth and then have to spend their wealth to regain their health. And I think about that quote, Diana, honestly, probably every single day. And it drives so many of my own decisions in life. And, that's where I'm like, so it absolutely to me is part of an advisor's job, right? What are people even like saving for if not to make sure that they are as healthy as they can control being, right? Some things do happen and we really can't control it, but right, control it to live the life that they really do want.
Yeah, I love that quote. I need to like put it on a sticky note on my computer. It'll help me say no more to more opportunities.
It does.
Okay, so
And,
these
and one
are, oh,
And
go
I just
ahead.
want to say one last thing on this because you've taken it, right? I've taken it. This even is really powerful for advisors to take, right? We
Yeah.
know we're so good at like being an accountability partner and encouraging others, but it does also make you turn in. And I will tell you, there are some things on this list that my husband and I keep talking about. We're like, okay, we need to get this done, right? We need to do this. And so it's not just like taking it one time, but that's again the value of an ongoing relationship is having that advisor again, whether it's continuing to plant the seed. Not everybody's going to be ready for every conversation in the beginning, right? So building on that over time, continuing to revisit these things.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. And these are five, right? We talked about there's five core, but then depending on where a client is in their stage of life, how does that change? So I'm going to go to the next slide here, and I would love for you to sort of talk through what is an expansion mindset. And I know in the marketing of this, if you read it and you signed up for this webinar, you probably saw that there were the expansions and there were also the walkaways. So let's talk a little bit about this.
Yeah, so this is really kind of, and it's always hard. Everybody's a little bit different, but you sort of have to draw a little bit of a line in the sand. So, kind of those people 45 and under, right? In that expansion phase of life, in what you might call, right, the accumulator phase of life. And then those over 45, right? They're getting closer to like, okay, sort of more than midway through my career or right at midway, right? Really starting to think more about retirement, think more about what am I walking away from? And more importantly, what am I walking away to?
Absolutely. So there's three here. So I'll pop these up on the screen. Let's talk about the resource mindset.
Yeah, so that's just making sure we know where that money is going, right? And that it's aligned with your values and the life you want to live. It's so easy, especially with credit cards, with our Apple Pay, with everything. You're like, I don't know, I just spend money. Making sure we're really being thoughtful with that, proactively tracking. Again, that's where that accumulation mindset comes in. That second one there, right? Are you proactively, saving for retirement, saving for your future, not putting it off until you're 45 or 50? Are you making sure to do that now? And then starting to think about, the walkaway, like what are you walking away to? Are you participating in a plan? Are you thinking about your future?
Yep.
Planting those seeds. I love planting those seeds, Diana.
Absolutely. And this is a great seed planner for prospects that we'll talk about that here in a moment. But all right, so this is focusing on the expansion. I like the term walk away. I think when people hear the word retire, oh my goodness, there's so much there that we're not really considering because we truly are walking away from everything that we've known, that we've done. Like life completely changes. There's an entire emotional side to that too. And some of the best in the space that really focus on retirement have taught me a lot in this segment. So let's talk about the walkaway mindsets.
Yeah. And again, I love always thinking about like, what are you walking away to? You're
Yep.
walking away from this, but where are
Yep.
you going? Where are you going to on that path? So
Yep.
that longevity piece is huge, right? If something happens, and unfortunately things happen far more often than any of us would like, what do you want your care to look like? You know, is that family taking care of you? Is it long-term care? Really making sure that, again, you're proactively planning for that, having those conversations, and that your family and loved ones know what that is. That income mindset, right? One of the toughest things, you stop getting that paycheck. Well, where's that paycheck going to come from? How are you managing that? How are you making sure that you've got that continuing to come in so that you're, planning and that isn't sort of a shock and you don't also deplete your assets earlier than planned? And one of my favorites, that purpose mindset. We know this is one of the biggest challenges, right? People retire, they don't really have a purpose, they get depressed, it can lead to a lot of bad things. So, what is
Right.
that purpose? Really having that purpose driven vision and plan for that next chapter. Huge, huge place where advisors can add value and making sure that people are preparing for that.
100%. So these are eight mindsets, kind of, three of them sort of swap out depending on the stage of life. Now,
Yeah.
how are we actually getting to these mindsets? That is the assessment. And so part of the entire basis of this webinar was helping people understand the mindsets, but also what does this assessment entail? Like how does it help a prospect or a client go through and really almost turn inward, right? And for me personally, like get really thoughtful about things that maybe I hadn't even considered before. And so I think it's time to finally talk about the passport package.
It is. And also kind of why it's called the passport package, right? I love
Yeah.
traveling. I've been to over 50 countries. I see passports. And I'm like, yes, let's go. So it's really about sort of that passport for life, right?
Yeah.
Where are you at now? And then where do you want to go?
Yeah.
And so should we dive into a live demo real quick, Diana?
Let's do it. Let's do it. By the way, not only has she been to all these countries, she's also a private pilot. So I told you there's so much you don't know about Katie. Oh, she's amazing. Okay, yes, let's dive in.
Good. Thank you. So once you're all off this webinar, hopefully maybe we'll end a few minutes early so you can all go do this because this is quick and easy. You guys all have 101 things going on. You have all kinds of tools and processes and compliance. We want to make this as simple as possible for you to implement in your process. So head to cnjinnovations.com. We are in the process of redoing the website. Hoped it would be done. We know everything takes longer than we'd like.
Yeah,
But for
especially
now,
websites.
especially websites, you'll see it just right here, right? Experience the passport package for yourself. And so feel free to take this. You can take both of them if you want, so you can see, take it maybe as an ideal client or prospect would, or take it as yourself. Totally, totally up to you. So you're just going to click on whichever one you want, and then it's going to take you right in. And so the thing to know here is we're asking a two-part question for each mindset, right? We really want to know. So we're starting here on that readiness mindset. Where are you now? And Diana, one of the questions we always get, people are like, why is there 1 to 12, right? Why isn't it like
Hmm.
1 to 4? Well,
Yeah.
think about it. Let's say, because there are sort of four, buckets here. If there were only four, right? Do you know how much has to change to get from one to the other? Like it's a really, really big leap, which can be
Yeah.
discouraging. And
Yeah.
anyone that's ever like done exercise and like things don't ever progress as fast as you want, right? Discouraging isn't fun. And so by having 1 to 12, you can slowly not only make progress, but acknowledge that progress. So
Mm.
that's really the idea behind the 1 to 12 scale.
Mm.
And so we're just going to go through this first one here together, right? So your readiness mindset, again, where are you now? And you're like, let's say I'm taking it. I haven't been able to establish adequate emergency fund or, 1 month, 1 to 3 months, 3 to 6 months. Right. So let's say, all right, I'm like just over a month. But then
Mm.
it's really like, where do you want to be? And Diana, both of these can and will change.
Mm.
So not only is this a great lead gen, we encourage all advisors to do this as part of the annual review.
Mm.
And I'll touch on the wellness real quick before we change, but right, ready, where do you want to be? And I'm like, well, I would love to have, right? I would love to have an emergency fund of 3 to 6 months. Right. Not everybody's going to want that. And that'll be part of the conversation that you have. But wellness, I'll just touch on this one, right? Where are you at now? This is one of those things we see this fluctuate, all the time. Maybe right now I'm like, yep, I am focusing heavily on these healthy habits. Maybe if you ask me a year from now, I'm like, oh, I'm really having trouble doing so consistently. Again, that creates that ongoing conversation with clients. Like, okay, you were doing really well. What's changed? What's happened? How can you really make sure that you're focusing on those areas that are absolutely most important to clients that have nothing to do with what's happening in the stock market, interest rates, or any of that? So you go through this super quick, right? So it's only 8 mindsets, 2 parts to each. Got the little progress bar. At the end, it's only asking for name and email address. So not asking for a ton of like, what's your net worth? What are your investable assets? It's highlighting that this is just really, really here to add value in people's lives. So as you all take it, if you wouldn't mind putting in your name, your email address, and then as soon as you do, you are going to see, sorry, didn't mean to make you nauseous there. You are going to see the results instantly. So for your prospects, your clients, they'll see the results instantly. And so it gets white labeled for you, right? Your logo, your contact information, compliance, and then you can scroll through to all of these. But I just want to point out, they intentionally cannot download it. The goal is that the report gets sent to the advisor so that that opens the conversation. So let's say you're doing it with clients as part of an annual review. You'll say, hey, Diana, we're going to go over this in our annual review meeting next week. right? Or if it's a, prospect, reach out to them and say, hey, here's your report. I'd love to talk with you about this further. So that's when you get that report. So you get the PDF, you can send them the PDF. Again, it's white labeled for you. And then this is the great thing about that lead gen is even if they aren't the right fit, they're still getting a ton of value. So they are going through and seeing like all these action steps in every mindset. But then you might be thinking, oh no, but isn't that my job? Absolutely. So this is where there are too many actions,
Yeah.
right? People are going to get overwhelmed. So this is where you, as the advisor, come in, have that conversation guided by this. And it's like, okay, uh, we're really going to focus on longevity, right? Maybe over the next 6 months, here are the things we need to do. We need to, really be diving through this, talking about your long-term care, getting that plan in place, right? Getting those wins so that you're not trying to do too many things at once. And then come back and revisit this, purpose, really big thing. And then again, I just want to touch on the partnership mindset, right? Because if we're talking about lead gen, especially, that's where it's like, let's look at, this one says you're not currently working with a financial advisor. And then it's like, think about what do you really want? And then, think about why you haven't yet worked with a financial advisor.
Mhm.
And so again, it's like a really gentle lead gen, kind of like just planting the seed with them. And this is also where, my background is also working with 401k plans, going in and doing employee education. If any advisors, watching this do that, huge, huge value add for that, right? All those 401k plan employees, 403b plan employees, they can do this. They're getting a ton of value. And then if they're the right fit clients, brilliant. They can move forward, right? Looking at kind of why should you work with an advisor? Maybe you don't know how to work with an advisor. And it's like, once you're ready to reach out, great, reach out to us, right? Just a gentle, gentle little nudge there.
This is fantastic. I mean, this is why I knew we had to do this webinar because there's a lot to say here. First off, my fiance does 401k plans. He goes to businesses, talks to all their employees. So he needed to be on this webinar. I will definitely send him the replay. Second, just from a even like on the prospecting side, right? Like just from that standpoint, the fact that the name and the email address are the only two things asked for, it reduces a lot of friction and it's going to get more people to actually go through this process, collect their report. I love what you had to say, like planting the seeds. This is value for someone who may not even be ready to be your client right now, but guess what? They're not going to forget about this report. It's thorough, it's lengthy, and in a year or 2 years from now, you're still going to be top of mind because they can go back to this report. The last thing I want to say here, just from the growth side, because again, this is a fantastic client tool, annual reviews, absolutely. Things change every single year. But from the prospecting side, I want to make the point here that this assessment, right? Like you can send it out in so many different ways to a prospect. Again, they may not be ready to work with you. Maybe they're going to come back later in a couple of years from now, and they're going to get that inspiration that they need to actually take the steps. But it really is done in a way that draws them in because it's basically helping people find out what maybe gaps they have, what issues they might need to work through financially and beyond, right? And then it tells them, here is our recommendation, our best recommendation for those next steps with these issues, how to resolve these things, how to close these gaps. And then, hey, we're here if you need us, right? And that's how any good business is structured. It's like, tell them the problem, help them find it, tell them how you would solve it, and then make yourself available to help them solve it. This is perfect.
Yeah, which reminds me of one of my other favorite quotes. Right? People don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. And
Mm-hmm.
that's one of the big things that we've seen with a lot of advisors that are using this is it's a way to, right, rather than just saying, we are a holistic fee-only fiduciary financial advisor on your website, right? This is showing that you care. So like one of my many favorite sort of client case studies is we had one of the advisors that uses this was working with a client. They just rolled it out. It was an ongoing client and they've had, all these action items. And they're like, the client just was not getting these action items done. And they rolled out the passport package to all their clients. And within like 10 minutes of the client doing the assessment, I kid you not, like completed all the action items. And the
Wow.
advisor called and was like, wow, like what got you to finally do that? And he honestly said, he's like, because this showed me how much you care. and that you care about more than just my money.
Wow.
And you're just like, whoa, right? It's the
Mhm.
showing. It's through actions rather than just words.
Absolutely. Yeah. No marketing fluff. You're actually doing the thing here.
Yeah.
And the report is great. Is there anything else that you want to showcase just in any of these slides here, Katie?
I think we have a couple other slides that I might want to make sure we get
Yep.
to as well.
Yep.
Is if we have any questions that are popping up yet? I lost my.
No, it's okay. Not yet, but if you do have questions, feel free to drop them in the chat. I think that was really helpful that you showed us in action. I think the passport side probably makes a lot more sense to people now too, right? Because it's not just where you're at right now, but where you want to go. And so this is sort of that passport package. It's like, here's how we're going to get there. And it is a whole package. The report is thorough, as I mentioned. So, okay,
Yeah,
let's
I just last
continue
thing I
on.
would just say again, I'm encouraging all of you to do it,
Do
right?
it. Yeah.
Experience it for yourself. And again, we're hearing from people. And as we were posting this webinar, we had some well-known people in the industry. They were resharing it. They're like, hey, I did this, right? Advisors. And they're like, and I, found things that I implemented in my own life, which is incredible, right? So it's not just for clients. We want to make sure that as advisors, we're all practicing what we preach.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. And maybe, maybe somebody already works with another advisor and they're going to take this to their advisor, and that's okay. I think, regardless, this is an important assessment for everyone. So I dropped the link in the chat. If you're in the chat box and you want to go and take a look at that assessment, take it for yourself, go ahead and click the link in the chat, cnjinnovations.com. So you tell me, Katie, we want to cover anything here or move on to the next slide?
I think we can keep going.
Okay, let's do it. All right. So another sort of point of focus for today's session is really on the lead generation side. This is a C&J Innovations and Wealthtender webinar. If you're familiar with Wealthtender, we are a lead generation platform. We help advisors by really amplifying their thought leadership, what makes you unique, and putting you in a place where a lot of consumers are coming every single month. In fact, in the last 12 months, we had about 500,000 consumers visit our site looking for a financial advisor. But a question we get sometimes from advisors that are on the platform is, how do I follow up? What's the best way? And I'll show you here in a second how you can put your calendar link on your profile. You can, really mark it in any way, the way you want to follow up. Maybe it's a phone call, an email. But from there, when you start to have that exchange, like, what is a good way to go through that discovery process? And I'm sure many of you on the call already have a bit of a discovery process. But as you've just seen in this assessment, this is a great way to beef it up, to really, really take it to that next level. So I want to quickly talk through this video here. And I know we're getting some questions in the chat. We're definitely going to cover those. If you have ever heard of Wealthtender before, again, this is a platform. It's a financial advisor directory where consumers are coming every single day because we have quite a content engine going on here. We've made a lot of partnerships, MSN.com, Associated Press, etc. And they can look for an advisor. They can ask a question that we'll put out to our advisors that you guys can answer. They can read articles. We have really good SEO and domain authority. That's what's driving people to us. Most of our advisors, once they have a profile on Wealthtender, they're popping up on the first page of Google. And we get really granular. So if I'm looking for an advisor who can help me with taxes, or if I own a business and I need somebody who understands the complexities of running a business, or I'm high net worth, or I just focus on Social Security, I'm a woman, whatever those things are that you want to hone in on as a consumer, and you're looking for an advisor who can do that, will absolutely make space for you. Who advisors serve, families, etc. And then we sort of put your profile. It's got all your branding on it. We actually build all this for you. You can edit it whenever you want. I'm going to quickly just show you an example profile that I think looks good here. This is Caleb Paddock. Caleb also has our reviews feature turned on. So we were the first SEC compliant testimonial marketing platform. So if you have consumers, prospects out there looking for an advisor, that is a huge social validation for them. Just like we read reviews for restaurants and other trust-based professionals, attorneys, lawyers, this is just the norm. It's finally becoming the norm in financial services. But they can learn a lot about you, like what's your compensation methods, what to expect in the first meeting with you, about your firm. Do you offer tax prep or anything else that we should know here? You can even put a video of yourself on your profile, which I love Caleb's video here. It just looks really good. And again, at the bottom, they can start to read some reviews about what your clients have said about you. And yes, this is possible thanks to the new SEC marketing rule, the FINRA marketing rules, and we make this completely compliant. It's a very simple process. But if somebody were to click one of these buttons up here, contact me, book an intro call, again, having this assessment is a great way to sort of build into your process how you can follow up with these people that need your help. So I'm going to go to this next slide here. And I know we have some information here about, let me just move my chat, customized dashboards that are going to give you some good insights. Really quick, before we get to this, Katie, are you cool if I actually cover? Yeah, perfect.
Yeah.
So let's say, again, somebody reaches out to you on Wealthtender, they book on your calendar directly because you can embed your calendar, or they just send you a message on the platform, they hit the call button. This is a good follow up with them. There's also so many other areas where you can do this, whether you use Wealthtender or not, whether you decide to purchase this assessment for your clients and like really start to work with C&J. We always want to make sure you have some good takeaways here. If you did decide to use the assessment, you can send it directly within an email to any of your prospects. You can even route your Calendly booking page. So, Katie, I know this is a feature that Calendly has, and I really should have put any other calendar tools here, but if somebody needs to book, there's always like a route too. So you can send them to the assessment immediately.
Yep, absolutely. Right. And for those of you, I think Calendly is just the most
Yeah.
popular, and it's fabulous. But yeah, any tool will work, but as long as you have kind of those workflows, right? So that once they book, if they've kind of booked that prospect call, that discovery call, and this is a really great thing to have them do before that initial meeting, right? Because again, it shows how much you care. And we've got lots of great stories of advisors that are like, hey, we just had a couple come into this meeting and they walked in talking about, how the wife was like at a 6 in
Wow.
wellness and wanted to be a 12, and the husband was like at a 5 and wanted to be a 7. And she's like, what are we doing this for? Like, if you don't even want to be healthy, and and the advisor was like, yep, they're going to be clients, right? Without even like starting the conversation, it was getting that conversation going with them. So whatever your existing process is, again, we really do make this as easy as possible. Fit it in that process. If you've got that email that goes out, it's like, hey, really looking forward to meeting you, in advance of that, please take 5 minutes to fill out this quick online assessment. Or if you can send it in a video, I love sending those video
Oh,
messages.
yes. Absolutely. There's so many different ideas here. I thank you for sharing that story. And I think there's almost this like gamification component, like not really, but a little bit. I think that's really cool. Yeah, you could include it in a QR code in an email or add the QR code to your marketing materials. You said the word workflow, and immediately it's something I didn't even put on the slide is like it should absolutely be in your CRM workflow. So if you're using a Wealth Box or a Red Tail, like that has to be a step in what happens when you get a prospect, when you get a lead. How do you really convert that to a viable prospect for you? If you're a texter, because some advisors use texting tools, then you can send it in a text, in a conversation follow-up, or if somebody, again, like opts in on one of your lead forms, that is the follow-up that goes out. So many ways to incorporate this. So the ideas are endless here, and it really is, again, just that way to take a more meaningful next step and really have more meaningful conversation before you even get into it with a prospect. So, Katie, I want to go back here for a second and look at the customized data dashboard. Let's talk about this.
Yeah. I mean, we're talking to advisors, so I figure we have to have some charts and graphs in here. No, this is a super valuable element, right? You mentioned earlier, like the passport package is kind of one part of the C&J platform. And this is one of those really, really valuable things. Everybody loves data. And Diana, you and I are always talking about marketing, right? Advisors that are on here are probably in that growth phase, thinking about, what should I be putting out on social? What should I be blogging about? What should go in my newsletters and my videos? This really helps tell you exactly what that should be. So this is kind of data from a client that works with 401k plans, right? Works with retirement plans. So if we look at this, it's showing the same data just in multiple different ways. But like that top left one, that orange line shows us like where is that biggest delta between where those clients and prospects are and where they want to be. And if you look, one of the biggest things, maybe not the biggest, but partnership. Wait, sorry, I'll touch on the delta first, and then I'll look at why partnership is so low. But that readiness, right? As we're looking at like this is for people that are in that walkaway phase and they're pretty far from their goal. Right? So if you think about like, hey, what should I be putting out there? More content on why is it important to have that buffer, right? Regardless of your income, your net worth, how do you do that? How can you make it easy? Brilliant content is just telling you right there what to have. Income, right? Again, that's another big difference. People are like, oh no, like I read a lot of people on it. They don't think about it. You spend your entire life getting a paycheck that it is kind of hard to imagine what is it going to be like after that and maybe not proactively planning, right? And then this is showing us if we look at the bottom chart, look at that partnership one, right? In terms of where do people want to be? They don't actually want to be that high. And again, we're looking at, 401k plan employees. They probably actually just don't understand the value of working with an advisor, or they have and they haven't had a good experience. What a tremendous opportunity, right? To drip out content and highlight the value of working with an advisor. And again, this is where even with retirement plans, you can do this on an annual basis. So the first time people might be like, okay, yeah, I did it. You're probably just trying to sell me something. But if you keep it going, continue to show that you care, it can make a huge difference. And then I believe it's called a histogram on the right, that just kind of shows us. So just so everybody knows, right, we have that scale of 12. So 1 to 6 is red, right? Kind of like room for improvement. 7 to 9 is yellow and 10 to 12 is green. And so again, showing us now, so readiness, again, we're seeing a lot of people scoring low in that readiness want to be a lot higher, right? So again, just kind of whichever one works with your brain, whichever one is most sort of visually helpful to you, they're all kind of telling us the same thing. But again, this should be driving your marketing. It should be driving your communication. Great opportunity, Diana, for advisors to be doing webinars, right? Get out there, put this content in webinars, invite your clients to invite some of their friends. Once you start to really see trends of what's happening here, the data should drive the rest of it.
I really like how you put the data in different formats, right? Because we're all different people. That's this entire basis of this assessment is we all have very unique needs. And so I like how you've done that because for me, I like personally, I follow, some of this data better than other, like
Yep.
this sort of graph chart here at the bottom is easiest for me. But I also think you hit the nail on the head here. And of course, this is your expertise wherever you're finding across the company board that there are gaps that things can be more focused on, honed in on with your clients. Yes, that is a marketing opportunity. It's a service opportunity as well. Like this is really where we need to beef up our workflows, our focus. Maybe we don't even really have much of a process around X and we really need to build one. I really appreciate this sort of company dashboard. I think this is incredibly helpful data for advisors who are using this assessment. So essentially, I'm going to assume, Katie, that if you're using the assessment in your practice, you have the C&J platform you just log right into and you can access all this.
Yep. Yes, I think these get updated quarterly right now.
Okay.
Once there's enough data, right? If 2 people take it, that's not going to be the
Yep.
most interesting chart. But yeah, once they're taking it and then they keep going. Absolutely.
Great. Love that. Okay, so we're going to move ahead here. We are going to go ahead and hop into our Q&A, and we've already got a question in the box. That's a very thoughtful question and definitely one I think everybody should hear. We've also got some people who've just dialed in. So hopefully some of the questions we'll cover will also answer what you were thinking as well. Before we open this up, one thing I just want to quickly do in case anyone has to hop off is where can you go to learn more about C&J innovation? So can you share a little bit about that, Katie?
Yeah. So again, head over to cnjinnovations.com. Keep an eye out for the updated website soon. But right, experience the assessment, and then we are more than happy to hop on a call with you. We would love to chat about, your situation. Are you in that growth phase? What kind of people are you trying to attract? And just for attending this webinar, again, it's summer, it's Thursday, the Olympics are on. Thank you so much for being here. We would love to say thank you with taking $1,000 off that setup fee. Just a nice way of giving back.
Yeah, so mention the webinar, don't forget. And then on the Wealthtender side, if you're interested in getting a profile, you can use coupon code 50 off for 50% off of your first 2 months. All you have to do is head over to wealthtender.com/grow. I'm going to also drop this in the chat for you guys we're a very low cost solution. Our goal is to list and promote as many financial advisors as possible. So we're not like other lead gen tools that charge a lot of money. Our most popular plan is $39 a month. And again, you can get 50% off your first 2 months. It's an instant SEO boost. You can also get started with the testimonial marketing kit and just the full SEC compliant testimonial marketing tool that we've built from a compliance standpoint. And this expires tomorrow. So it is just like a 1 day quick deal for you. If you're on this webinar, let us know, use the code 50 off for 50% off your first 2 months. But also here, Katie, I'm going to skip ahead of this. Just,
Yeah.
if you want the copy of the slides, we'll be sure to send it out with the recording. You can look at some of our packages at Wealthtender, what the media has said about us, what the industry has said about our platform, what advisors say about our platform. Most importantly, a real quick recap before we do Q&A on just what does everything, the C&J platform, what all does it include?
Yeah, so one of the things we have been told, which is kind of fun, is that we provide a lot more support than a lot of other companies. And so we've really tried to sort of package that upfront for everyone. So we do have, you see that communications guide for implementing. So we've actually got draft emails in there. We've got draft phone scripts if you're calling your clients, broken down by, how to start with those raving fan clients, how to kind of approach those C&D clients. We've got the resource guide really walking you through what all the mindsets are, how to think about it, how to talk about it, right? We've got those 401k plan rollout emails. We've got different drafts. One that is, takes a much more fun storytelling approach to rolling this out to your retirement plan clients, one that's maybe a little more serious and, simple. So again, really trying to provide as much support as possible to make this as easy as possible because you all have enough going on. It's like I said, it's customized. You get your logo, your branding, your contact information. We work with you absolutely through compliance, getting it approved through compliance. We've got fully developed workshops. So for both the expansion passport and walkaway passport, workshops with full speaker notes. So again, you can do those as webinars. You can go into companies. You can do it with clients and prospects, right? All done for you. We even add your logo, add your compliance and stuff to all of that. Those customized data dashboards for you. Again, those are also broken out by the expansion and walkaway, since those are kind of, two different client segments there. Right, you've got the annual strategy call. So we're really here to support advisors because we work best with the advisors that really have that growth collaboration mindset.
That's awesome. We haven't even really touched on the presentations that you guys have built. I mean, that is fantastic. Guys, this isn't just an assessment to use and to send out, but you can also present on this topic and become an expert on it and really form some thought leadership there for your firm. So that is wonderful. And again, if you want to talk to the C&J team, please do. Last slide, and then we're going to open up for Q&A. I want to get to your question, Shannon. What is this partner recap here?
Yeah, so I really want to just make sure to highlight this real quick, right? We talked about all the other things, and really there's the partner recap and the annual recap, but these are two other things. And Diana, we know with so many couples, there is always a quieter voice in the relationship. And so that's another massive value add is, right, we tell partners to take this separately and then put this together. So when you sit down with them in that prospect meeting or in your ongoing meeting and looking at kind of where do they differ, right? And this can create some really fascinating conversations, right? Again, that wellness mindset. Jane, out of 10, wants to be a 12. Dick, yeah, out of 7, wants to be a 9, right? That starts a conversation. If we look at that partnership mindset at the bottom, right? Jane, like at a 10, loving the relationship, wants to be at a 12. Dick, not really feeling like he's in partnership with the advisor, right? So if this is an existing client, it can also be like, oh, is there a relationship with one and not the other? Are we at risk of losing someone, right? It gives you so many insights into the relationship and how to add value in a really, non-intrusive way that, again, just shows you care. So yeah, love these partner recaps. So many great conversations. And then again, that annual recap, because we do encourage advisors, do it initially and do it every year. And you're going to see those differences, right? Maybe in 2024, Jane, is at a 10 in wellness. And in 2025, she's at a 6, right? All right, Jane, what's going on there? Let's talk about it.
Absolutely. Yep. The partnership aspect is very eye-opening here. So I think what we'll do is we'll leave this last slide up. If folks want to kind of take a look and see what other advisors have said, about the assessment, about the passport package, feel free to take a look. And let's go ahead and open it up to Q&A. And so we actually already got one question. I want to read it aloud. And Katie, I'd love your take on this. So this
Yeah.
is from Shannon. And Shannon says, what would you say when you are sending this out to current clients? How do you explain why you are using this if they are already expecting you to be helping with the info included?
Yeah, love that, Shannon. So a couple of different ways, right? And every advisor is going to be in a different stage and have
Yeah.
different kinds of relationships with your clients. But this also triggered a memory. I was just on a memory from yesterday, so long ago. But I was on a podcast yesterday, and we were actually talking about how, clients don't always know that you're in growth phase. Right. Especially if they've maybe been a client for a long time. So if you are actively in your growth phase, and you almost like subliminally want to share that, you could even tell clients if you are nervous, right, Shannon? If you're like, clients already think we're doing this, like, would they be, wondering? You could position it as, we are growing and this is a new tool that we are going to be rolling out, to new clients and prospects. Before we do that, we would love your feedback on it. Right. In a way that like really brings the clients into the process. And people love being a part of things. Right. And then that way clients will be like, oh, wow, this is really cool. Like, I'd like to keep using this. Right. So that's sort of one angle of it. Or you can also just say, and again, we've got those emails in that communications guide. We do recommend you generally start, if you're like, hey, I want to start with existing clients instead of prospects, then starting with those raving fan clients. Right. And you're going to say, hey, you've been with us the longest. We really value your opinion. We're rolling this out. Before we do roll it out to all of our clients, we want your feedback. Right. And just kind of, again, people like being part of things.
Absolutely. I completely agree. It's the co-creation, right? It's very powerful. There's a psychological component here to people feeling embedded within your firm and having some sense of ownership because they've been your client for so long. They probably, have that kind of craving almost to help you and shape you as you've done for them as well. So I think that's super important. If you have any questions, folks, right now is the time. We have this live Q&A going. We'll go as long as you need us to. Katie, I don't know if you have a hard stop or not. I'm sure so many of you do, but we have at least officially 6 more minutes. So if you have any questions that you want to ask, feel free to drop it in the chat box or in the Q&A box. We still got a lot of you on the line with us. Don't be shy. Ask us
Yeah.
anything. While I wait for any other questions to come in, I'll also just go back to the screen here. So in case you are interested in, number one, finding a way to actually like put yourself out there to get more leads in the door, and use this truly as that prospecting tool on top of client facing, wealthtender.com/grow. And then if you want to actually explore the assessment, take it for yourself, sign up for the C&J platform, cndjinnovations.com. And it looks like we have another question here. Let's
That
see.
one's for you, Diana. Andy asked, do you need to hold the CFP designation to use Wealthtender?
You don't. That is what makes us different. I believe in like a Zoe Financial. I think you have to be a CFP. We obviously really value the CFP designation. We actually have an entire directory specific to CFPs and a whole article around it. Like, what do you need to know about the CFP? Where can you find one? So we do focus on that, but you don't have to have a CFP designation to get on Wealthtender. On Wealthtender, you will find financial advisors. We have some financial coaches, but we are mostly financial advisors, and you can specify that on your profile as well. Great question, though. Another thing I'll just share really quickly as we wait on other questions is something that also differentiates us from like a smart asset, for example, because I say the term lead gen and immediately people go there. Is we're not like collecting leads who contact advisors through our platform and then gatekeeping them and selling them back off to you. It's just one flat price. Again, our most popular price is $39 a month. Anyone that contacts you, that's your lead. If they contact another advisor, then that's their lead too. But most likely, like if they're just there to contact you, that's your lead. We don't gatekeep. We're not selling it off to anyone else. And they contact you directly. You can put your calendar link directly on your Wealthtender profile.
See, Diana, you make it easy,
I
right?
do.
But that's what I love. It's like there are so many tools out there that I think and processes that make things more complicated. And no, nobody needs more complicated.
No, absolutely. We've all got complicated lives already. So
Yeah.
Thanks for that question, Andy. And if you have any others, please feel free to send them in. And also, thanks guys for bearing with me. I feel like I sound like my nose is plugged. I was telling Katie before we started this webinar that my sister was visiting, and she was a 15-month-old, and she got sick. I think she got sick from her daycare. They live in Colombia, so they call it like the Gardeniera. And I was telling Katie, like, man, not only do kids, they're a little wild. You got to feed them all the time. You got to change the diapers, but then they also get you sick. Like it makes me question a lot of things. I don't have kids yet. If you have kids, you can probably resonate with this. But just this little human got me so sick. So I'm still recovering a bit. So thanks, guys, for bearing with me.
Well, you sound perfectly fine. I can tell you that. And you're bringing your energy. Lots of great questions. Again, thank you so much to everyone that was here. I know how precious everybody's time is. So many
Yeah.
other things to do. This was awesome. And just so you know, if there are questions after, or you take this back to your team and you're like, hey, I'm curious, or you take the assessment, again, we're here to hop on a call with you, talk about your situation one-on-one, see if it's a right fit. If you want to talk about, yeah, how your process is working now, let us know.
Yeah, absolutely. Also too, just I'm gonna do one quick thing. So sometimes some of you you prefer to send us a message on LinkedIn. Maybe it's just a little more personal for you, and I totally understand that. So I'm also on top of the links that we've already dropped in the chat. I'll also just Katie, you beat me to it. Literally, I was already getting yours.
I use shorthand. So that's just a fun little operational thing. I use text expander. So I just typed in ZLI and it auto populates my.
That's impressive. Okay, another webinar on that another day. I also dropped mine in the chat. So if you just want to connect with us on LinkedIn, continue to follow along what we're both doing at Wealthtender and C&J Innovations, feel free to do so. Katie, thank you so much for coming on this webinar with me and giving the just sort of tour and overview of the passport package. I'm such a fan of the work you guys are doing, and hopefully we get to do another one of these in the future. But you've been great. Really, really appreciate your time too.
Yes, Diana, thank you. Thank you to everyone. Have a fabulous afternoon and go gymnasts.
Yes, absolutely. Love Simone
And everyone
Biles.
else.
And everyone else too. Bye, everyone.